This is the Comedy Kiosk, podcast by Mondae and Munoz. Please welcome Mondae and Munoz.
Welcome to the Comedy Kiosk, a podcast in which we discuss news, opinions, facts, and ideas about comedy. I'm David, and this is
Igor Mondae.
Yeah, and today we'll be discussing...
Can you learn how to be funny? So, do you think that a person that's just funny in the office, funny at home, funny with friends, does it translate to stand-up comedy? Are they immediately funny on stage, or at least is it easier for them to be funny on stage?
Oh, yes and no. I think that they can get away with more if they're naturally charismatic, because what you're talking about is charisma. And that's part of stage presence, being charismatic, in some way. Whether you're the charming, nervous person even, or like Stephen Wright, like I have no personality, I speak in a deadpan voice. But it's a certain charm to it, you do it with confidence. There was one time after a show, I remember someone talking about I could never do stand-up because I'm not confident or whatever. Or I can't remember, he made some remark, and then he was talking about how he was surprised that someone could do it because they didn't seem confident. It was like, well, no, they are confident. Their persona is being a nervous wreck, but they are actually confident. They know what they're doing on stage. It is part of the persona. You can be both. You can be a nervous wreck and yet confidence at the same time. I don't know. What do you reckon?
Well, I think this depends on... Because charisma, I think, is a very strong point for any kind of performance, live performance, etc., like stage performance, including stand-up. But I wouldn't say that all class clowns or the office joker and so on, that they have charisma.
But they have confidence usually to make a dick of themselves.
They have confidence, but also maybe they don't have confidence, and that's the way they attract attention and try to be the interesting one, to have something interesting about them. So they kind of force humor and jokes, and I'm talking about the guys that come to you to your workplace and be like, oh, hey, you know what happens when you put, German Shepherd and a ladybug together? You get a German lady.
Right.
Alright, see you next break.
Was this you?
This was not me. And I brilliantly just came up with that joke as I was telling it. But
I would not put that in your resume.
How dare you? It's my opener for my Netflix special. I was keeping this joke and now I spoiled it.
But surprise is ruined.
Damn it.
Think of a new punchline. Not German ladies anymore.
Well, I kind of feel like with the right comic, with the right confidence, and you could even sell that joke.
And this is what I was getting at the beginning. Those people may be able to get away with it more, be able to fake it better at the beginning. And people might start thinking, oh, wow. And that's when you might get the comment like, wow, you've been doing it for a while, haven't you? And the one's like, no, it's my first time. But it's like, it doesn't mean that the quality of the jokes are going to be good, if you know what I mean. So that's exactly what I was talking about. Thank you for proving my point.
Okay, you're welcome. But I think... Well, that's the point. Where if you get those jokes that you do with your friends at the office, at uni, whatever, if you come up with those jokes, so if you're not just telling pop jokes, dad jokes, or just being annoying, but if you are witty, if you're or sarcastic or observational, you're like, hey, what's the deal with the elevator? That's kind of. What's the deal with canteen food, the Seinfeld stuff, and whatever. So you observe the world around you and you discuss it with your friends or colleagues or whatever, peers, and they get a laugh out of it. Yeah. The way I think that can translate really well on the stage. But if you are the joke reteller, I tell jokes that I've read on the internet or some memes or some dad jokes, pop jokes, and I'm the funny one. Then I think you're fucked if you try to do it in stand-up. And I think people do. I think people think, oh, all my friends say I'm funny.
Yeah.
But that's because I send them memes or whatever. But they say I'm funny so I can do stand-up, which I think is quite a different skill or different type of art or whatever. To just, to retell some funny stuff, to be like a database of jokes and to actually come up with jokes and perform them.
Yeah, well, this is where, okay. Oh, it's because it's kind of a complicated thing because in a way, so what you've touched upon is the different facets of doing stand-up. Stand-up is not just the joke. it's what we're really saying is there are different parts, different elements that make stand-up. That's really what we're discussing. And one of it is joke writing. The other one is stage presence. Another one is delivery, timing, all that sort of stuff. The other one could be like language or like more to do with the persona, like how you phrase things and things like that. So you're breaking it down. What we're saying then is someone, in this case, someone who's good at telling jokes, they've got that, maybe their persona way of saying it, or maybe they've got that stage presence, they say it with confidence, but they haven't worked on their actual writing an original joke. They don't write original jokes, but they're good at telling a joke. They're good joke tellers. So that part, the performance part, they've already started working on. Now they just got to work on the next bit. Now, on the other hand, someone else could be someone who thinks of really funny things, but maybe they're shy and they don't say it. Or maybe they only say it with their friends and they have, like you said, a dry way of saying it or whatever, and they get a laugh. But that means they're working mainly on their joke writing, but maybe their personality or thing sucks. So in that way, they're maybe not known as the funny one, but deep down they really are funny. It's just that they haven't found a way to present it or to make it palatable on stage.
All right, so they have like half of the work done, right?
Yeah,
so either
both sides have it, but they're just different aspects.
Yeah, so either you have the performance aspect or you have the writing aspect, right?
Yeah, and I think what's usually recognized the quickest is the performance aspect.
Yeah, so let's say you have like a class clown, a guy that's like the center of attention, always cracks jokes, witty and whatever, but doesn't like write material. Yeah. It's just like, he's just there with a quick joke he saw on Instagram, on Reddit or whatever, like a meme or something. On the other hand, you have a person that writes really well and can like think of funny things and ways to like subvert, twist and so on, but is not a good performer. We will talk about in a minute, I think, can the other part be learned? Yeah. But do you think someone who has neither can still be a stand-up comedian? I won't say a successful stand-up comedian because this is a whole other topic, how to define. But to do, let's say tight 10. Yeah. So
get up on stage, get laughs.
Yeah, get up stage, get laughs every, 20, 30 seconds, every minute maybe if it's like a story or something. Yeah. But to do, because I think tight 3 or tight 5 is easy. Not, I won't say easy, but easier. Because to hold the audience's attention for 5 minutes, I think even if you're not particularly funny, you can use another gimmick. If you are, a girl in a tight dress, you're going to get attention. If you're a guy who's wearing a Batman costume during this performance, if you have some kind of funny voice, accent, you brought a guitar, you use like a triangle after every joke, like you hit a bell or something, like they're gonna listen to you for 5 minutes. They're not gonna die of laughter, but you can do like good, solid, maybe tight 5 minutes. Yeah. But let's say 10, 15, 20, like a proper club set, 20, let's say 20, because I think even 10 you can get away with like 5 minutes of gimmicks and then maybe 5 minutes of some material that you worked on so much that it works. So let's say 20. So do you think someone without either this kind of natural performance, charisma and skill, or writing talent or whatever can still be a good comedian?
Straight off the bat?
No,
with training,
with work, time. With time, with maybe some other ways of
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you can learn it. We've touched on this before. I've mentioned before. I think we've learnt it. We all have. We all learn how to do it. The only difference is that person will be learning it directly while being on stage and from the get-go. The thing is, we've learnt it most of us have learnt it by growing up and being around friends and learning to develop that personality or that charisma or that confidence or that, telling a joke, because maybe we've told the same story 1,000 times at a party because we know it's the way, the cheesy thing, it's going to sound very cliche, but it's the way to impress a girl, for example, right? And so we have like a lot of guys will have stock standard stories that they will tell girls they've just met, but they'll tell every girl that they've just met in order to paint a good picture of them or make them seem funny, or it's a funny anecdote. And all you do is you grab that anecdote and you can tell on a stage. But that's it. You have been practicing it. You've probably said that thing so many times that next time, without even consciously being aware of it, you might switch the words around because You did it by accident. You realized, oh, the girl got an extra little twinkle in her eye or whatever.
Yeah, well, at some point we've all learned it, obviously. Like, no one was born a stand-up comedian. So what I'm saying is, if you haven't already learned it in your own, like, personal life, right? So let's say that we have started developing these skills since, I don't know, some point in our lives.
We could talk.
So since I was maybe 6, I'm the funny one, you know, or whatever, at some point. So I've had good 20 years of developing those skills before I first time stepped on the stage on a stand-up open mic.
Yeah.
Right? So someone without any of these skills, if they start today to try to develop, would it take them the same 20 years? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we have it.
No, I think it'd be more boiler room. I think it'd be like pressure cooker sort of thing. I think they would develop it faster because the thing is, and they could do things like they can record themselves, they can watch back, they can time it. They have other comedians telling them, because we give each other feedback, you know, and especially if they ask for it, if they kind of go, look, can you give me some feedback? And we'd say, okay, fine. This is what's working. This is what's not. You need to try to do this. Have you thought about changing this around? So we can actually fix that, you know what I mean? Like they would have almost a much more hands-on thing. We did it before kind of intuitively or very slowly or whatever. This person gets a pressure cooker, which in a way would means they cut out all that time. So maybe it would take them 3 or 4 years what we took 20 years of our lives figuring out. So yeah, I think they can be taught.
All right, so let's then consider that and keeping that in mind that half of this skill, so either performance or writing, or even both, as you say, can be learned. Do you think what's the way to learn it? Can it be learned through some, let's say, how would you call that? So not by doing, but by studying, like by reading about it, by attending a course in it, by watching, I don't know, YouTube videos, by talking to other people. Do you think it can be learned any other way besides getting up on that stage once, twice, 10 times a week and just doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. Have you done any course or looked at anywhere to kind of help you?
I have not, but I mean, I think I have taught some kind of workshops, master classes and stuff on how to host, how to crowd work, how to do this and that. But I think this is more, it's not some kind of formal education structure or whatever. It's more like a group of friends, peers, whatever, comedians that you perform with, just giving some advice from personal experience.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it, but there are legit kind of courses done, I don't know, 16 hours, 5 meetings, this much money, this much time per day, this what you learn, you get a certificate, you know, like a proper school of comedy, school of stand-up. There are such things, and books on how to write a joke, how to be a successful comedian, this and that. So you think that you can learn from such sources?
I think they can assist, definitely. Like, for example, there was one point where, after I'd already been doing it for about 3 or 4 years, and I actually wanted to get into this later on, after I'd been doing it for a while, I then looked up some webpages on how to write jokes. Just have a look, kind of going, oh, actually, that's why that bit of mine works. Not realizing I'd used these structures, or I'd done some variation of it, but basically seeing it was actually helping in a way to then deconstruct it, and then that helps you write more of that style, for example, or know why it's successful, for example. So I have done that loosely. I've got it saved on I mean to go back and double check it. But like, for example, Eddie Izzard, great comedian. He does this surreal satire sort of stuff, and he goes abstract and marvelous. And from what I understand, he did a course. He did a proper course. He did these like workshop classes, and they performed their stand-up sets, and at the end it was go to a club and perform your set sort of stuff. And he had honed and worked in it in a workshop, and that helped him develop his kind of persona, the way he did it and stuff, because you have someone, it's like I said before, normally we do it in a club setting informally. That was just a formal setting. And he paid for it, and he ended up with the results that he wanted. And from there, he built and built, and I think that sped up his process in a way. So one, Eddie Izzard did that. So that's one way, like you were saying. Another comedian, he performs in Australia, but he's actually of, I believe, Venezuelan background. His name is Ivan Aristegueta. Really good, love his stuff, and he does it from like the Latino immigrant to Australia sort of perspective when he performs in Australia and Australian society. Now he's Oh, his sets are just beautifully done, absolutely hilarious, simple, nice, well structured, everything is great. Then, when I was listening to his interview in the Comedians podcast, he was saying that he, at the beginning, even before he did stand-up, he literally listened and watched stand-up sets or professionals, like proper specials, like hour-long sets, specials, and he wrote them out verbatim. He wrote out the entire script by just listening, writing, rewinding, listening, writing, and that helped a lot with his joke structures, he said, by doing that technique. That's just self-analysis, but not of your work, of someone else's work.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that all these kind of things can help you.
Yeah.
They can help you, especially they can help you maybe find some structure. They can help you maybe find some new point of view, new understanding, new ideas to create some kind of new approach to how you write, how you perform, etc. Because
where do you put the punchline?
Yeah, you will have an objective source, be that a book that has never met you, or your teacher, mentor, or something that works directly with you and with your jokes and with your sets, but still you will get like a impartial third party that will, let's say, review and feedback on your existing work and somehow give advice and guidelines, etc. But I think this works, so you can get, using this, you can get from, 6 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. If you talk about the quality of your 20 minutes, right? But can you get from 0 to 10? Like using this? Because I think it's a very hands-on experience and very hands-on skill and talent and whatever. I think you have to be on that stage because otherwise you will never learn it. Let me give an example.
You have to, because stand-up is on stage.
Yeah,
some kind. So otherwise, you're not doing stand-up. You're just a really funny writer.
Yeah, but so that was my question. If you go on stage, you do 10 open mics.
Yeah.
And you bomb each time. So you do 5 minutes without any laughter.
Yeah.
You bomb each time. 10, 100, how many you want. And then you say, no, I'm determined. I will become a funny stand-up comic.
Yeah.
You take 6 months. You take a year. Whatever. You take 6 months. You read all the books about stand-up. You take courses from whoever, from Bill Burr and from Jimmy Carr and from Kevin Hart and whatever, to work on to work on your charisma, on your publicity, on your writing, on your, connections, on your, industry rules and whatever, how it all works, right? So you get all the insights, you get all the mentoring, all the tutoring, everything you can. Then you write a bunch of stuff, you write, throw it away, rewrite it, throw it away, practice in front of the mirror, throw it away. And then with your 20, you come on stage and you kill. Do you think this is possible?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah. Because I personally think it's not. And I'll explain why. I think it's possible with some things. Like when I was a teenager, I was really into rap.
Yeah.
And there was this one guy, he basically he recorded at home in his home studio some kind of album of 10 songs and released it. It was his first ever attempt at hip hop, and it was pretty shit, right? And people were like, "Man, this is pretty shit," right? And but it was like a big passion and dream of his and whatever. He said, "Actually, it is pretty shit. It was the first thing I've ever made." And I don't know much about this industry and how to work with this and so on. But, I want to be better than this. I don't want to put out my stuff publicly and then people shit on it.
Yeah.
So he disappeared for 2 years. What he did is he kept writing, recording, producing at home. Yeah. Until after 2 years, he released an album and it was just brilliant. Right. So he took everything best from his influences, from his role models. He did every song he recorded, 50 times. Yeah. Until every word, every pause, everything he did exactly as he wanted. Yeah. So no compromise with quality, no nothing. He redid 2 years it took him to record 10 songs. But they were great. Right? But I think that's the kind of thing that you can do by yourself. You can do music by yourself. In the end, people will listen to it. But again, they can either listen to it or turn it off. And that's it. So, but I think with stand-up, the main thing is the immediate audience reaction. And how do you know when you have good 20 minutes? If you don't have that trial and error, you've done this joke, 30% of it worked. Then you rewrote it, 60% of it worked. Then you rewrote it, 63% of it worked. But then the thing that worked last time now suddenly doesn't work because that room got it, this room didn't get it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a very, it's alive. I think stand-up performance and stand-up writing and so on, and even a joke that's a killer joke, right? It's a joke that works, will work only 7 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
I don't think there is a joke that will work for every room in every city for every person.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I mean, the same thing can be said for songs. I mean, he did, what was his style? Hip hop or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all of a sudden you take it to a classical music venue and you might find that a lot of the people there are going to be like, nah, not my style of music. I mean, his music it's still good, it's well produced or anything, but some of them might go, it's shit.
No, well,
because it's not to do with...
Yeah, but I'm not talking... This is now subjective quality.
Well, yeah,
if you're not into stand-up, even Louis C.K. and Bill Burr will mean nothing to you. You'll say, I don't like stand-up.
Yeah.
So I'm talking objective quality, right?
Yeah.
Can you do objectively strong 20-minute set by going to schools and reading about it and listening podcasts?
Can you have objective comedy?
Okay, you know what I mean, like that you have... You know, like you have a premise, you have a punchline. Punchline is a twist on expectation or the rule of 3 or whatever. The observation is unique and not like something that you've heard on another show.
It's not hack.
So I mean, it's 20 minutes of objectively good material. Who will laugh or won't? Like, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, but this is also where we go and think. Like what we're talking about now. A lot of times with these books, they will tell you the traditional style, set up punchline sort of thing. Make a twist, do what the audience expects, and then the twist that changes the narrative. All these classic things, rule of 3, 1, 2, 3. If you're going to do your punchlines, the tags and stuff like that. Like this is the stuff that you're going to get from books and courses. They're going to tell you the basic, the kind of the core, well-worn tropes that everyone pretty much knows or that you pick up very quickly to help you. Now, on the other hand, there might be someone who is like this avant-garde alternative comedian, sort of like your, let's say you're more like your Ross Noble or your Noel Fielding, who does some really bizarre-ass stuff. Now, some people could be, you could watch the example Noel Fielding where you're like, wow, he's crap. Like, as in, he doesn't make any sense, his shit is not funny. But some other people will love him and say that he's absolutely brilliant and that he is a master of his craft. He's a master of this abstract, absurd, over-the-top, weird, artistic style of comedy. And, it just depends on whether you appreciate it or not. Now, the thing is, that's down to confidence, where I'm sure when he came out and started doing that stuff, there were people who told him, you're not funny, mate. Give up. That shit is not funny. That shit's just weird. You're just being a weirdo on stage. They're laughing at you, not with you. And all that sort of thing. I'm pretty sure he would have heard that. A lot of alternative comedians would have heard this from people going, like when they said, I'm getting into stand, they're like, yeah, but you're not funny. Why? Because they're thinking of the traditional ba-dum-dum-ching sort of joke. But they've got the thing is they have the confidence at least to go, no, I'm going to keep at it.
Well, I think there is a difference there between it's not funny and people don't like it.
Yeah, people don't get it.
People don't get it. Because that's the difference. Because I think if we talk about alternative scene and such kind of comics, even people like, I don't think when Jimmy Carr started being a guy in a suit doing crass one-liners, that people are like, oh, yes, let's like sell out 5,000 room theater. Like it was, I think, a small number of people who were like, oh, this I get, this is what I can laugh at. Yeah. But then it was 50 people, then it was 100, then it was 500, then it was 1,000, then it was 5,000, right? So you kind of teach people, like you kind of develop, you find your audience, But it was always funny. There was just not enough people to appreciate it. Or he didn't find those right people. So I think Ross Noble and Noel Fielding and whoever is doing alternative comedy, there is this guy, I keep forgetting his name, he's an American comic and he's done even like TV appearances and stuff. He's basically, he looks homeless and he kind of, his whole set is, you don't know, is it a set or is he just saying stuff that comes to his mind? But obviously it's a set, but he delivers it in such way. which looks very chaotic, and it's a very acquired taste, I guess. And people like this, Marcel Lupon and stuff like this. So I think I don't think it's not funny. I just think it's not for everyone. But I'm saying the stuff that's not funny.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like those things you can't really do a course on how to do alternative comedy and stuff like that. Like this is something you're just gonna have to have the confidence to be able to go, right, I'm gonna try something. It's nothing from a book, but I'm gonna give it a shot. But what I'm saying is that using these books, these courses and things like that, you can definitely get a foundation. And I think you can succeed, but it'll be a very traditional style of comedy. And maybe from that, you can then work your way out. Because even a lot of these alternative comics will actually, what looks chaotic and what looks like absurdist weird stuff actually has still the same fundamental structure. It still has the same sort of beats. It's just that their beats, the way that they present those beats, are in a very strange and unusual way. But a lot of times it still has these rules. They're still following it. So I think you can learn how to do it. But I think also this is where maybe the difference is a truly funny person, maybe someone who can improvise in a way, like their mind can improvise in different directions. Otherwise, you just become a very mediocre stock standard. Maybe.
Well, I think, it's kind of like music, right? So there is, classical music, which you can learn all the like solfeggio or whatever it's called, all the like the notes, the whatever.
Yeah, scales and
exactly. And you will be able to play a classical piece. And then there are genres of music that just broke the mold, like punk or whatever, where there is like different parts, or like jazz, right? Which is like improvisation. You just feel it, you go with the flow and stuff like this. But at the end of the day, you still, even for jazz, you have to know the beats, you have to know the notes, you have to know so I think some foundation, you can get some framework, you can get for what stand-up is and how it should look. And then once you know that, you can break it.
Well,
you can break the mold once you know the mold.
Yeah, it's like, the whole martial arts thing, you spend your first 20 years getting up to a black belt, and only to discover, actually, that's just the beginner phase. You've now learnt the fundamentals. Now, you got to start doing it so it fits you. And that's what I mean. Same thing with freestyle time. And the same thing with music, absolutely. Same thing with stand-up. Yeah, I think it's basically you learn the rules, you learn the fundamental. And I remember once we did a workshop and someone was... Ollie was trying to like explain the basic structures or the basic ideas of comedy, and this person was just constantly like, but I don't want to follow the rules, blah, blah, blah. And at one point, I like literally just looked at the person and then, why did you sign up for this workshop? It's like the whole point is to learn this stuff so you can do this stuff and then you can start breaking it. Like, you can start, it's like, but so-and-so doesn't do it. It's like, yeah, of course they don't, but they've been doing it for 30 years. Like, they can do whatever the hell they want. At this point, it's in their bones. Like, they've internalized it. And this person just was wanting to be the avant-garde, like, I want to do my own style. And it was that sort of thing. So it was but it was a funny little moment because we're all just looking at him going, why are you here then? Like, why did you sign up for this? Like, if you're going to critique every step.
I think even those things that they will tell you in books, on those courses, on whatever, like Stand Up for Dummies, whatever it is, it works if it works for you.
Yeah.
Right? So all of them will tell you, and I've never read any of them, and I've never attended any like stand-up school, but I know of such materials and such sources, and they will tell you things as, if you have an idea, write it down. Then like expand on it, make like
shit, that's where I've been going wrong, huh?
To the point of like absurdity. Like play with it, twist it, and write down your joke like as a script, right? Yeah. Then learn it and repeat it in front of the mirror to your friends, practice it until you tighten it so it's so funny, blah, blah. And for like, I think 50, 60, 90% of comics, that's the way to go. And then on the other hand, I look at myself and I've never written a joke in my life, in like 7 years I'm performing. I've never written a joke, which doesn't mean I've never come up with a joke. I mean, like, written, like, wrote out a word, each word I'm going to be used. To this day, a lot of my jokes, I've learned them by heart, by repeating them 100 times, but not by learning them from a piece of paper.
Well, so Billy Connolly is famous for the fact that because of his dyslexia or something like that, he just was incapable of writing down, and then because otherwise he'd write it down, try to read it, and it was just gobbledygook. So it was just like, and as I said, a lot of people with dyslexia actually, so there's quite a few actors and things who have suffered, Tom Cruise and all this sort of stuff, who've suffered, and what that means is it forces them to memorize, and so they get really good at memorization and learning whole pieces of text off by heart, and then they can just focus on the beats and the rhythm and stuff. So yeah.
Well, that's the final thing that I would lean into, because I think, and that's how I learn my jokes. I learn my own jokes by performing them.
Yeah.
So the way I recently found the joke I've been doing now for maybe 5 years. I found a recording of maybe 2 years into me doing this joke, right? And then I have it from last spring or whatever it was, when we last time we could travel and do
Okay, what was the time
shows.
period between the two then?
So it was between 2016 and 2020, so 4 years.
Right.
So at one point the joke was 2 years old, and the other, or 1 year old. Let's say the joke was a year old, and then the other point it was 5 years old, right? And that joke, even though it's exactly the same joke, could not be different. Could not be more different, because the punchline is the same. The idea is the same. But the way I tell it, the tags, the little additions that make the punchline funnier, because you already have some expectations, so on. Not 100% different. It's the same joke, but it has evolved so much just by me doing it. If I sat down and tried to rewrite it 100 times, I would never do it, because when I did it after the first year, I thought this is a finished joke.
Yeah.
It has its beginning, it has its end, it has the small punchline, big punchline, and tags in the middle. This is a finished joke.
Yeah.
But then the more I told it, the more I realized where I can add things, what I can omit, what I can, change, what I can bend, what I can, underline, etc., etc. So that's why I think, honestly, all other tools and sources aside, I think they can be useful to an extent, and I think they can be useful to a particular kind of person that learns by learning, if that makes sense. That learns by, because also, basically anything, I would never, if someone told me, here's a bicycle, do you know how to ride it? I said no. Okay, do you want to ride it? I said yes. I would never think I should find a book how to ride a bicycle. No, I would sit on that bicycle and fall down 100 times, scrape my knees, break my arm, and then learn how to ride that bicycle. But there are some people who would go to YouTube and check how to ride a bicycle. Yeah. Right? Which are the best shoes to wear? What kind of balance you can achieve? What kind of speed? What kind of, whatever. Yeah. So I think it depends on the person.
Yeah, because everyone's a different style of learner. Physical learners, people who learn best through repetition, people who are audio learners, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think for overall, I think stand-up is such a practical thing that you have to learn it on stage. It's just you have to learn it by doing it, and you have to learn it by doing it in front of people. It can be 3 people at a workshop, 10 people at an open mic, or 100 people at a show, but you have to learn it as a live art.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there, but the question is can you learn to be funny? And I think in essence, yes, you can, but you'll only get so far. But you can't. You're not going to finish doing a workshop and go, right, now I'm going to fork down the $30,000 to get my Netflix special without once having been on stage, right? You're not going to finish a workshop, and even if you're a millionaire, you're not going to plonk down that money to record a Netflix special. You're going to get on stage and work it. Of course, that's element of it. I completely agree that yes, you have to go on stage to learn it, but I think there's different ways you can go about it. You can, maybe you are, like you said, you're a learner sort of person, you like structured sort of things, then you can start with the workshop before you ever go on stage. You learn, you practice at home. It may even take you a year before you get the courage to go up on stage with the material you have, but you feel pretty confident through that workshop, through everything, that is good material. So even if you have a shitty crowd, you might go, all right, obviously, or not a shitty crowd, but a crowd that just doesn't get that style of humor, then you go, okay, that's that. Or you can say, okay, the jokes are good, but my presentation is not at its best at this point. Now I need to work on presentation, right? On the other hand, you could be the other kind of person who gets up and starts doing it on stage and stage and stage, and that's all you ever do. Or 3, you're someone who gets up on stage, does it, and then you do a course. This kind of brings me to the last example that I have. Brian Molko, the lead singer and guitarist of Placebo. Right? I remember hearing an interview with him where he was discussing learning the guitar. Like it was an interview in Guitar Magazine or something like Guitar World or whatever. And what was interesting was he said his recommendation, because the way he learned it, he's like, buy yourself a guitar. Play the guitar for 4 years. Don't take a single lesson. Just listen to it. Put your fingers wherever you want. Figure out what sounds good. Just, basically just have fun for 4 years with this instrument, just goofing around, trying different sounds and whatever. Then, he's like, if you want, then take lessons. Because I never did, but I would recommend it after 4 years. And that reminded me of when I first got given the saxophone by my dad, that I played it and I just figured out no idea what I was doing. I just held down keys, heard different sounds, and strung them together and created my own rhythms and beats. Then I started to learn at the school, part of the school band. Problem is you learn, classical style music, Ode to Joy, blah, 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 Beethoven, or you learn things like Barbara Ann by the Beach Boys, which is probably the most exciting piece that we ever played, and boring. But you learn these scales, and it was really boring. To the point that one day, after I'd given up playing the saxophone, my father made the remark of, you know what? You played better for the first 2 weeks than you did afterwards. The moment you started taking lessons, you became bogged down and stuck, right? He's like, that improvisation stage, that was actually really good. There were some really good rhythms and tunes. It was like pure jazz. And he's like, I think you almost stifled your gift a little bit there, sort of thing. And I think that's why, like you were saying before, it depends on the person, depends on the learner. But what I would recommend, and what I've started to do now, is now that I have been doing comedy for, I don't know, how much, 5-6 years or something now? Something like that. That's why I started looking at the webpage, how to write jokes. Because I'm like, okay, I feel it, I get on stage, but still, I'd like to know, that's what I was saying before, I now can look at bits sometimes and go, oh, that's why that works, right? Because I've done this. Interesting. Okay, so now in future, hopefully they'll help. But it's good to know that you've already done it, that instinctively you know how to do it. But it's also good to have it pointed out to kind of go, all right, so that's that. And then other times when you go, wait, but that doesn't follow any structure. Oh, so I've done my own thing there. Great, now something maybe I can develop for myself. My own distinctiveness.
But the question that we are trying to answer is, can you learn to be funny?
Yeah.
And the other question that we are now discussing is, can I become a better comedian?
Yeah.
Which I think...
Or can I be successful?
Well, this is a completely different thing. But can I become a better comedian? I think yes, you can.
Yeah.
And workshops and schools and friends and recording yourself and watching it back.
We'll see,
and
that's
things
it.
like this. I think this will help you see your mistakes, see your advantages, disadvantages, play your strengths, fix your weaknesses. Things like this. Yeah. So if you're a 5 out of 10 comedian, I think you can get to 7 out of 10, 9 out of 10 by self-improving. Yeah. Either from workshop, feedback of other people, hiring a mentor, whatever, teacher, tutor, something. Yes, someone who's gonna basically help you see things you don't see and suggest or whatever, help you with the ways of improving those things. So I think you can become a better comedian. But can you learn how to be funny? This is...
Yeah.
I think you can... And my conclusion, my answer would be, you can learn how to do stand-up, but you can't learn to be funny. Because I think you can learn the format, you can learn the formula, you can learn maybe some kind of trigger responses to things. You can learn how to... you can learn how to perform. You can learn where to put your hands, how to do your body movement. You can learn public speaking. You can learn presentation skills. You can learn writing skills. But you cannot learn to be funny. And how? Can I say that? I think it's kind of the question. Can I learn how to play football? You can.
Yeah.
Read Wikipedia about all the rules and take a ball and kick it around for 5 years. You will learn how to play football. Will you be Cristiano Ronaldo? You will not. Can I learn how to drive a car?
But you can be David Beckham.
Yeah.
No, you literally can, because that's how he made himself. He said, even he would say, I'm not the greatest football player. Like, he knows he's actually not that great a football player. But there is one thing that he's really, really great at, and that is kicking, the penalty kicks and stuff like that, because he can bend it, right? The whole bend it like Beckham, he trained himself to do that. And that was his niche. He got himself to become, at the end, captain of the England team, even though, well, one, because he's got charisma, he can lead a team, they like him, and his one skill really is that he's really good at bending that ball for straight shots to be able to do penalties. But otherwise, as a just standard football player, even he recognized he's not that good. Like, he's good, like, way better than us, of course. He's a good player, but he's not exceptional, he's not brilliant. So you can still be really bloody successful and considered a great football player, but just a very niche one, but still. He does it. And also to point out, you once made a remark, we're having this conversation, and we were discussing about this whole, it's almost like the fake it till you make it. And you said that by default, by being around comedy and doing comedy, it becomes a part of your personality. You do end up becoming funny.
No, I said that I think that you should be a comedian only if you're funny off stage as well. Because otherwise...
But you were saying, but later on when we further discussed it, that's what you started with, but we said that eventually by being funny and successful, that would end up ingrained, become part of your personality. So, like, if you were successful, you would just learn how to make those jokes. It's like the fake it till you make it, until you finally actually go, oh, it's like faking confidence until you actually have the confidence. And then you do have it. But in the beginning you faked it. I think the same thing. You can do these calls, you could learn to be funny, work on it, and you could learn it so to the point where eventually it becomes ingrained that you are funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, you can learn systems of doing a good 20-minute set. Like, you can learn the formula.
Yes.
You can learn the approach, you can learn the needed skills and stuff. But I think being funny, let's say it like this. I think there are two terms that we are working with. Skill and talent, right? I think you can learn the skill, but you can't learn the talent. I think you can learn everything that someone can teach you. A book, a teacher, hands-on experience, whatever. But you can't learn the talent. And that's why most successful people in some kind of, it doesn't matter, sports, in whatever, in art, in music, in science, in anything. I think they had raw talent, which was then shaped and formed into something brilliant by applying skill to it, like some structure, some education, and so on. So, but if you just have skill with small or no talent, you always end up kind of mediocre. Or if you have skill and a lot of hustle, you can hustle your way, like weasel your way into TV and Netflix and like selling out Madison Square Garden shows and stuff, and be one of them Kevin Hart's or whatever. But
so you're saying Kevin Hart has no talent?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that, Kevin. I'm sorry. Even though you're probably smaller than me, I still don't want no beef with Kevin Hart.
I don't know. I think he might still be taller than you.
No, he's not. But
this?
I would like to. I have not checked this, and I would like to point out at this point, I do not want any beef with Kevin Hart. Kevin, I respect you, and I respect every person that works on their act, that works on their. You know what I mean? It's not about like these people are not worth the comedy. You know, they're not worth doing stand-up. But I mean. What I'm trying to say is, with skill and hustle, you can get all the success in comedy. But does it mean you're funny?
Right. And this is where I have to disagree with you. I would say that eventually, with enough skill, you could get to the point where you would have that talent. Like, yeah. So I'm going to disagree with you here. I could say you can learn the skill, but it doesn't mean that you straight away have the talent. It means it'll take you time to get there. Like I said before, it's a good foundation.
So as a conclusion... Can you learn to be funny? David says,
yeah.
And I say, no.
Yeah.
I say you can learn to be a good or a great stand-up comedian, but I don't think you can learn to be naturally funny.
And unlike Igor, I don't want to crush anyone's dreams, and I want to say go for it, you know?
No, go for
it. So what? You know, you're not gifted by God, as Igor obviously thinks he is. You know, you could still give it a shot. What I'm saying is, give it a shot.
Well, definitely give it a shot. I don't think I am, you know, naturally funny, or my gift was given to me by God, because as you mentioned, I have been learning this from young age, just on different context, not in context of stand-up, but just being the funny guy. And I still don't think that I'm on any level that deserves any respect or admiration, since, I mean, who is Igor Mondae anyways, right? So that's why if I was that great, Mozart was like a wunderkind and a famous pianist at 4 or whatever when he wrote his first symphony. So I'm 33 and I'm doing 10-minute spots on Friday shows. So, you know, I wouldn't say that I am the one to speak, but it's just my personal opinion. I'm sorry, Kevin Hart.
Yeah. And I'm saying that, I would say the main thing is, it's whether the person can internalize those skills or not. So mine is all about internalization. Whether someone can internalize depends on whether they end up with a talent or not. Some people never will. Others, yes you can.
Yeah, and on that note, I think we can wrap up this episode. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, and if you figure out how to leave comments so that we can see them, because I honestly don't know how, because I've tried and like to comment on other people's podcasts, and where the hell do you click? Do you have any idea? If readers you know, please shoot us an email at Podbean or whatever, Comedy Kiosk at the Podbean thing.
I think the reason why we don't see any comments is mostly because people don't leave any comments.
I know, but I mean that's the obvious one, but still,
it's not a glitch of the platform, David.
Oh, no.
No one listens to this.
No, I'm just wondering, because we have had someone, like, I got my wife to try to comment, I think she wanted to comment through the iTunes store or through Spotify, and she just didn't know anywhere where she could leave a comment, like through these different platforms, how to actually leave a comment. She's like, I can't leave a comment to you guys. The only way is if I go to your Podbean actual thing, and there I can directly comment.
Imagine it somehow magically actually pops up the comment your wife tried to leave, and it just, we're getting divorced. If someone can leave us a comment just so we see that the platforms work, do that. Or let us know about your comedy experience, your opinions on this topic.
And tell us if you're Team Igor or Team David.
In general, not just regarding this topic, but in general. Which one do you like more? Thank you so much for listening. I've been Igor Mondae.
I've been David.
David who?
Well, David Munoz, fine.
David and Goliath.
Oh, David Munoz Ferrando.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
That got me all turned on. And until the next episode.
Never doing that again.
Fair. Don't do it, please. Goodbye.
Goodbye. See you later.